Hi everyone! I'm Meghan Sullivan and welcome to my prediction video for future Hades content. Yes, I'm pretty confident we're getting future story DLC for Hades, or maybe even a direct sequel at some point. Why? Hades is an incredibly popular game with a passionate fan following, myself included, and has lots of room to grow since there are certain gods and heroes that are conspicuous by their absence. Now, although Supergiant Games claims that some of these characters were, quote, not integral to the story and for various reasons did not fit with the gameplay, end quote, a DLC or direct sequel would allow these notable gods and heroes to make it into the game as new aspects, boons, or story drivers. So here's who I want to see and who I think will make it into new Hades gameplay should it ever come to pass. Also, while I have your attention, make sure to look out for my upcoming History and Games episode on the Fury sisters, Meg, Alecto, and Tisiphone. I think you guys will really enjoy that. Okay, let's get started. Number 1. Apollo. Apollo was one of the most worshipped Olympian gods in all of ancient Greece. He had the power to heal and purify mortals, as well as pollute them by sending plagues. Temples to him were everywhere, and his oracle at Delphi was one of the most influential forces in all of Western antiquity. Yet Apollo is completely absent in Hades, and I think he would be a great addition to the cast. His boons could include an area of effect spell that spreads miasma or creates a healing barrier. He could also help blast enemies with light, or offer buffs and debuffs through song, since Orpheus does mention he learned music from Apollo. Number 2. Oedicles. Oedicles, better known as Hercules, was one of the most celebrated heroes in ancient Greece. This gluttonous, temperamental strongman had hero cults everywhere, and the Spartans even proudly crowed that they were his direct descendants. Oedicles is especially famous for his 12 labors, which included stealing the Hound of Hades, so it's a little bit odd that he's nowhere to be found in the game Hades, although Achilles does mention him in passing.
Only in passing. He once died a mortal's death, worse than mine. Had a brief stint down here, but he's favored by Olympus. Got a special arrangement of some sort, I heard. Haven't seen him since.
I'm sure he's in no hurry to return.
Oedicles could make for quite a challenging boss given his epic strength, and if he's an ally, could lend Zagreus his power in the form of strength-related boons, or even lend Zagreus his famous club as a weapon. Story-wise, it's possible an upcoming DLC or sequel could be about the rivalry between Oedicles and Apollo. According to Greek myth, these two came to blows after Oedicles ran off with the sacred tripod of Delphi, where the Pythia or oracle of Apollo uttered her prophetic words. Things might have gotten ugly, but luckily Zeus stepped in and separated the two. However, I don't think they were friends after that, so perhaps Zagreus finds himself caught in the middle of their beef? It would certainly be interesting, and I'd be curious to see how Zagreus could reconcile the two. But Apollo and Oedicles are not the only ones in the middle of a feud, which brings me to my next potential character, Hera or Ida. Although the Queen of Heaven and Zeus's wife is mentioned in Hades, and we do get to wield her weapon, the Coronact, we don't actually get to see Hera. It's not entirely clear why, but this leaves the door open for some compelling DLC or an entire sequel surrounding her antics. The most likely scenario is, as always, Hera is at war with her philandering husband Zeus, and is plotting trouble of some kind. It may either be up to Zagreus to stop her, or it could be Zagreus is responsible for trying to reconcile husband and wife. If Hera makes an appearance as an ally, her boons can include an upgrade to her heart-seeking bow, and maybe, I don't know, a boost in health? Either way, I'm excited to hopefully see the Queen of Olympus make her appearance. Number 4. Hephaestus. Another absentee is Hephaestus, husband of Aphrodite and the smith god of Mount Olympus. Hephaestus would be perfect for, say, introducing a whole new level of weapon upgrades and customization, as well as boons like throwing out a net to catch enemies or immobilize them, something Hephaestus did to Aphrodite and Ares in order to catch them in bed together. It would also be interesting to hear his thoughts on Aphrodite, Hera, and other characters whom he famously doesn't always get along with. Number 5. Jason. Another hero conspicuous by his absence is Jason, the Argonaut who famously searched for the Golden Fleece and married the sorceress Medea. Jason is a somewhat unusual hero with a messy tale. He wasn't very heroic for straight up murdering Medea's brother, but then later suffered the murder of his own children by his own wife after he abandoned her. He died lonely and unhappy after getting crushed by the rotting mast of his famous ship, the Argo, which is why no doubt he's an angry ghost in Hades and could definitely appear as a mini-boss, or perhaps there could be a story in which Jason tries to convince Zagreus to help him stop Medea from causing trouble in Tartarus, where she surely ended up after slaying her own children. And if anyone knows where Medea is, it would be Tisiphone, the fury who tortures murderers. But since she doesn't say a whole lot, we'd probably have to ask Meg, which still works since all the Furies are responsible for punishing those who transgress family law. Number 6. Agamemnon. Now the reason I think we could see the King of Mycenae make an appearance is because Agamemnon was famously cut down by his wife Clytemnestra after returning home from the Trojan War, which is why he appeared to Odysseus as an angry ghost in the Odyssey. Why was he murdered? Well, his wife killed him as an act of vengeance stemming from Agamemnon's sacrifice of their daughter Iphigenia. By the way, Clytemnestra's actions caused her to be murdered in turn by her son Orestes at the insistence of his sister Electra. Basically, the whole house of Atreus is a mess, and I would love for Supergiant to explore this tragic family feud in depth, since, half the cast is probably somewhere in hell. I also think Agamemnon and his family would make for a pretty intense group of boss fights, don't you? Number 7. Hecate or Hecate. One of the most baffling oversights in Hades is the lack of Hecate, the triple-formed, torch-wielding, magical underworld moon goddess who was famously worshipped by the sorceress Medea, was a guardian of crossroads and keys, and was associated with chthonic rituals. Where'd she go? Perhaps she ran away from home? Nyx would probably know, and maybe Zagreus could bring her back as part of story DLC. Plus, Hecate's dark powers would make for some interesting and unique boons. Number 8. Helen and the Dioscuri. In Hades, Achilles mentions his dealings at Troy but doesn't say much about the catalyst for the war, Helen of Sparta. I'd love for Helen to make an appearance in the game to give her side of the story. Her boons could include some sort of glamour or illusion. I'd also love to see her twin brothers, the Dioscuri, Castor and Polydocles, in this game. The Gemini twins were exceptional warriors and even joined Jason on his quest to find the Golden Fleece. They were good boxers and horsemen, which means they would be a formidable and exciting boss fight where you had to fight them both at the same time. As allies, their boons could include St. Elmo's Fire, which was considered a type of epiphany of the twins since they were known to be guardians of sailors, or they could give Zagreus the ability to punch harder with the twin fists of Malphon, or maybe even let Zagreus summon a horse to battle? I don't know, either way the twins would be another fun addition to the cast. Number 9. Hestia. The goddess of the hearth was very important to the ancient Greeks, but in Hades, she's only mentioned in passing as a former wielder of the weapon known as the adamant rail, which is so terrible the gods abandoned it after their fight with the Titans. Where is she? What's she up to? Again, there's some room for story DLC here and an opportunity to unlock new boons. And finally, number 10, Perseus. Yet another hero missing from Hades is Perseus, famous for his defeat of Medusa and his ability to ride the winged horse Pegasus. Him confronting Medusa in the underworld would be a sight to see since he's the one responsible for decapitating Medusa and using her head to petrify his enemies. And to fight with him would be interesting since he could potentially use his winged sandals to fly around Zagreus, use the helmet of invisibility to disappear, or use his shield to blind you. By the way, I know some of the powers I mentioned in this video kind of overlap with things already in the game, but Supergiant can find a way to make this all work. I know they can. Now, there's a bunch of characters that I didn't mention here because then the video would go on forever, but shout out to Prometheus, Eros, Asclepios, Pan, Atalanta, Bellerophon, Odysseus, Daedalus, although his hammer's in the game, Icaros, Pelops, Pandora, Orion, Oedipus, Hector. Oh my gosh, can you imagine Hector running into Achilles? Awkward. Ixion, Ajax, Menelaus, and everyone else I couldn't fit into this video. I'm sorry, I don't have enough time. There's tons of story potential for new Hades content, and any one of these characters would be a welcome addition to the game. Also, let me know if one of these characters did make an appearance and I just somehow missed it. So with that said, which heroes and gods do you want to see make an appearance in Hades? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.